I said, used the question, it was not possible to go to the moon until somebody asked the question. To be effective, a question must have 6 characteristics. Have a specific purpose, contain a single idea, be clear in meaning, stimulate thought, require a definite answer to bring closure to the human relationship induced by the question, and explicitly relate to previous information. How about going to the moon? Therefore, do you know what the moon is? The specific purpose of asking the question is to find out if the person even knows what the moon is. Knowledge of the moon is a single idea contained in the question. The meaning of the question is clear. Do you or do you not know what the moon is? It stimulates thought about the moon and may spark an idea of how one relates to it. If not, it can be addressed in the second question. The question as asked requires a definite answer, and the answer relates to previous information. Do you or do you not know what the moon is? The question focuses on questions that focus on the right versus wrong are hopeless. Because for me to be right, you have to be wrong. And as I said before, everyone is right from their point of view. So a valid question about an ecosystem does not call moral judgment into account. However, you can, for example, combine some questions very simply by saying, this is a very good question. A good short-term economic decision may simultaneously be a bad long-term ecological decision and thus a bad long-term economic decision. So the question could be, how will this economic decision affect the sustainability of the community and its relationship to the land over time? Because if it's a good economic decision, it might be in the short term, but if it degrades the environment while fulfilling its goal, then it becomes a bad economic decision for future generations. And as I said last night, there are 4 relationships between the community and the landscape, and the community, the present, and the future. You've got to keep those 4 things in mind because they relate all the way through. As you work to attain the vision, you must remember that the objective you choose to set in concrete is absolutely critical. And you have to be committed to attaining it and committed to keeping your commitment. Because if one part of it breaks down, you'll lose the whole thing. There are 7 steps to monitoring. I'll go through these quickly because these are critical. And again, you'll have this available, so you don't have to take notes. The steps are, a good monitoring has 7 steps. And what's based on is the uncertainties of the future. Step 1 is crafting a vision, goals, and objectives. What do I want? Why do I want it? Where do I want it? When do I want it? From whom do I want it? How much or how long or how many do I want it? For how long? Is a component missing? If one is missing, you may achieve your desire by default, but not by design. The crafting the vision, goals, and objectives are the first part of monitoring because they tell you why you're doing it and what you're trying to achieve. Preliminary monitoring is inventory. What do you have to work with when you start? The third part is modeling your understanding of the situation. That's a part that's often left out. How do we really understand this? How do we think it'll work? The fourth part is writing an implementation plan that clearly defines the objectives. The fifth part is monitoring implementation. The sixth part is monitoring for effectiveness. And the seventh part is monitoring to validate the outcome. These break down with the Achilles heel of monitoring when it gets expensive, it becomes boring, and people break the information feedback loop. Then you lose everything that you have achieved automatically. If you do monitoring correctly, the other challenge you will face is the lack of true leadership. Every community has the leaders necessary, but they are often not recognized. Or if you haven't learned to share leadership, they're not appreciated. And that is deadly. That breaks monitoring. The other is it becomes too expensive or a lack of commitment in leadership. And here it's very important to understand one thing. the difference between cumulative effects, lag periods, and thresholds. Every system has them. Now, when you have a vision, goals, and objectives, you're setting a system in motion. Cumulative effects are those small things that happen that go unnoticed. It's like catching the flu. You become infected at a party, but you don't know it. And the virus grows gradually, and as it grows, it begins to have an effect on the body, but you don't notice it for a while. And when you suddenly feel it, you cross the threshold with no return. You're going to have to ride it out. Now, I tested this. I didn't believe it. I worked with systems for some years, but I thought in my youth that I could tell a threshold before I crossed it. So one night in a research station where I was alone, so if I made an ass out of myself, I was the only one who knew it, and I did a brilliant job. I got a bottle of fine wine. I don't like wine, but I got a bottle of fine wine because it's all I could afford, and a shot glass. And I sat down with a stopwatch. And I filled a shot glass and I drank it, and then I timed it for 15 minutes to see how I felt. I felt great, so I filled another shot glass. And I drank it, and I waited another 15 minutes, and I drank another shot glass. I was feeling a little pretty good. Then I got to feeling better, and then, oh my God. What happened was I didn't count on the cumulative effect of the alcohol in my body. And when it crossed the threshold, I ended up the next morning waking up, thank God I was by myself, in the driveway. I slept under the stars. I just passed out. So I learned about the validity of thresholds. Cumulative effects, lag periods, and thresholds, they're real. But that's why the invisible present is so important. You have to monitor to see those tiny changes, or you get caught by surprise and you cannot go back.